Morning everybody, Martin from Preact again. This is just a follow-up video on the first video that we did for marketing. So the first video, if you haven't seen it, was around the marketing features of the email sends and customer journeys and things like that. Today's still looking at Dynamics for marketing, but it's looking at the events side of things. So when you come into here and you click the change area, click on the events, you can see it changes. We can still use some of the features from the email send. So if we need to send a QR code in an email so that person can bring it with them on the day to check in, we can do all of that. We can then add them to journeys, and when you look at your analytics from the email side and you look at the individual, you can then see emails opened, clicked, but also events they've registered for as well from the event side of things in here. So the marketing solution is made up of, as you can see on the left hand side, it's all around the event. We've got event registrations, which I'll come on to and show you once somebody goes on the website and registers to attend this event. We've got a list of people that will be speaking at the event. We can then check in. Hopefully I'll show you how to do that. As and when they turn up to the event, we can use a mobile app or iPad, scan their QR code and check them in. We've got a concept of buildings, so if the event has a building and then each building might have rooms with different features in those, we can show you those. And then of course you can link this to event sponsors, so we've got vendors in there, hotels, certain events, you might have preferential rates with the hotel a mile down the road and they give you certain room allocations. You can do all of those as well if you need to. But typically, if we just come into here to the events, I'll just show you, here's an event I created earlier. We just go into here, you just click new on the event, and it's similar to anything else in Dynamics where you get this process flow across the top to help you set it up. So you can go through here, add in your times of the events, everything else, move on to the next stage. You come onto the agenda and then you're basically saying, okay, have you done all of these? And these feed nicely into these tabs across the top here basically. So what I've done here under the general tab, just given my my event a name. Obviously, what type of event is this? We're saying it's really much a Preact demonstration. We're just going to show you the different apps and the Power Platform and things like that. Is it on site? Obviously, you can link this to webinars on 24, GoToMeeting, any webinar stuff that you've got, you can have in here as well, and we can link that. If you pick webinar, the form will just change and then it'll ask you for your webinar provider details basically. Currently looking at this has been live for a little bit now, so we've had 11 people that have registered onto this event that are potentially coming. Nobody's checked in yet because we haven't gone live. Well, typically looking at the date we have, but we haven't gone live yet. As soon as we check those people in and the event goes live on the day, this count will start going up as well. If you need to go and look at the event URL specific to this event, you can just click on here and that will take you to there. I'll come on to that in a second. You can give it a unique event ID code if you want to enable capture. So when they're registering on the website, to identify that they're not a robot and spamming you, you can turn that on as well. If you need to take payment because you're selling passes to your event, we can set up portal payment gateways in here as well. Do you want the individuals to allow to register themselves and fellow colleagues and things like that? It's quite common that you might have somebody working as a PA and they need to register their boss's details and his partner's details as well as themselves to the event. So you can say yes to this. If you say no, then it just allows you to create your own, submit that, and then you'd have to come back in and do it all again. And of course, anonymous registration. So if you say yes to this, that means anyone from the general public can register this. They don't need to be a contact or a lead already in your database. If you say no to this, then of course it will be behind a portal login area, which they need to then fill in username and password details. For now, I'm just going to say it's anonymous. You can see over here the start time. I'm saying it's starting on the 8th at 9 o'clock. It's going to finish on the 11th at 4:30. Is this a reoccurring event? If you say yes to this, you can then see you can basically set the pattern for this. So reoccurring, what the reoccurrence is. So it's the same thing every single week. You can set that. That will use this as a template, which you can do also as well. You can say this is a template going forward. And then it will just set the rest of those up going forward with all of the things that you've set against this basically. You've got your activity management in here, similar to how you would normally have in Dynamics as well. So if you need to set yourself any tasks and reminders to follow up and things. So this looks like there's a completed phone call. We've probably phoned the venue just to check that We've still got the building allocation and stuff to host our event. So there's a phone call in here. You'd see all of the same things on the timeline like you would normally. And then of course we've got this concept of building. So the building that you see over here sits in its own entity over here. There's a list of all your buildings. Within that building, obviously you can then see there are a list of different rooms that you might specify. So I could actually say, okay, this is actually taking place in the Darwin room, for example. Within this, you can see then it pulls in your capacity based on this room. You might have certain capacity in certain rooms. You might want to filter this out as well based on your rooms having certain disability access or Wi-Fi, yes or no type thing. Each of the rooms have their own. If I just show you this one of these rooms quickly, this room is part of this building. Disability access, internet connection, AV support, video conferencing. Again, all of these features are here. You can set these up. So when you're picking your rooms, you might actually just apply a few filters to look for those as well if you need to, which is possible. And obviously then a wait list. So, if we hit this 400, do we need to then put people on a wait list, yes or no? Again, if you do that, then they need to log in behind the portal to access the wait list. Equally, once you've got a wait list set up, people need to go on and cancel their registration, so it opens up another option for somebody else. That can be done as well. So these are all the basic things around the actual event itself. If we then come across, you would typically then go to the next stage here on agenda, and it says, okay, have you set the agenda, which is in here. So you can see what this does. You can see the day, the week, the month, the year. It's telling you in here what's what. I'll just flick it to the actual day today. There we go. So this is when the event's actually taking place. Don't know why that didn't pull through. You can see, so when we look at this, it's 8th to the 11th. On the 8th, in the morning, we've got a session, Dynamics for Sales. And then in the afternoon, we've got customer service and portals. On the Tuesday, we're doing field service, and then we're doing project service. And on the Wednesday, we've got all of these other breakout sessions. If we come down here a bit further, that just shows you what it looks like on a calendar. And if you needed to add any additional sessions, you can just sort of highlight a session here, click into it, and then you can fill out all your details around what the session's going to be, what building it's in, and things like that. So you can actually set your agenda from the calendar control if you need to. But subsequently down here, those sessions that you see in the calendar control there are these individual sessions that you've got here. So again, different things like, what is that? Is it training? Is it a hands-on session? Is it a workshop? Is it a breakout session? Times and days that you saw in the calendar above. Which building is it taking place in, and which room is that going to be happening in as well? You can set the rooms for these as well. So it could be quite common that you have one room that caters for everything. Within that room, you've got breakout rooms that you might need to then use as. So that means that you can have 2 sessions running at any one time in those different rooms if you need to. And then we've got tracks. So if somebody wanted to quickly come on and find, any of these sessions that related to the Power Platform, they could go in and click on that. You can see that's telling me that 3 of these sessions above relate to the Power Platform, which I'll come on to when I show you the registration in the portal and show you how that works. Of course, down here then you've got a list of speakers. So the people that sit over here in the speakers tab, we can say these are the 5 people that are going to be speaking at our event. You can add any of these new people in if you need to. If you need to add in any of their rates, because it might be that they are an external contractor and not something that works for you guys, then you can add the rates in there as well. And of course then sponsors. So these typically look up the account table in Dynamics, and it's looking at that account and what are they sponsoring us. Both of these are monetary sponsorships looking at this, but you could have people sponsoring new equipment and things like that. It's not just monetary. You can then categorize those individually as well if you need to for any report purposes that you might have. That's the agenda. Moving on to the website and form. Again in here, unique ID. What does the image look like when it renders through the portal? Again, the portal gateway that you're taking. All these other things that you've picked from the general tab come through on here. But these ones in here, registration fields. So if you need to quickly add a new field that you might need to capture when the person registers for the event, you can add any of those new custom fields in here. There's a few different data types that you can pick from here. But it means that you haven't got to go to your CRM administrator every time you need to add a new field to your registration form, basically. So I've just added in here an additional field called gender and would you like a free goodie bag, and that's a yes or no field. So these details are in here. Eventually when people then register, you'll then start seeing, so those 11 people that have registered that we saw on the main screen, there was a roll up of 11. It's these 11 people here that we see. These are people that have gone on our website and physically gave us their details to register to attend this event. Any responses in here, and again when we start checking these people in, eventually you'll see those in here, and anybody who might have then logged in and cancelled you'd see down here as well. So it could very well be that one of those 11 eventually cancels, and then that comes down here to say that they've cancelled. That, if you've got a wait list, will free up a space for somebody else. Because we're pre-act and we're generous and we're nice, we're not charging you to come to our event, so we actually don't have any passes in here. You could quite easily go and add a new pass and then charge a monetary value for that. That would mean that you would need to have your portal payment gateway set up. So, you know, whether you're taking payment through Stripe, WorldPay, SagePay, PayPal, you can set all of those up. So when they pick a pass, they can then actually pay when they register as well, which I'll show you a variation of that for one that I've set up with passes against that. But for now, I'm saying that we're not charging you for a pass. And then there's additional information that everybody wants to see from financial standpoints. What is the revenue? How much is it costing you for the venue? Any miscellaneous costs? These are really here just to report on, you know, what is the expected outcome? What was the attendance? What's your primary goal? Obviously, it's to sell, you know, or for marketing purposes, educational, morale, whatever. Again, you can change your values in here. And of course, then these filter into nicely down here. So these costs might be contributed by some of these people that you've got. So down here, you can see Peter Parsons is an internal user. Internal team member, he's helping with registration. He's going to be working alongside Charlotte, who's an external, so she probably works at the venue and she's going to help us register. Abby also works probably at the venue and she's supplying the equipment. We've then got Barry, who might work for an account that sits in our accounts table under security management. Again, we might have to pay these people a day rate, which I should imagine we would do. That would then contribute to some of your costings up here, basically. But you can have team members, which is really useful, that if you are actually at the event and there's a security risk, you'd come into here and you'd be able to go, okay, I can know it's Barry that we need to go to. You click into Barry here, you'd be able to see all the details for Barry. So his phone number, the account he works for, works for Loctite Security. He'd have a mobile number in here, and you'd be able to quickly then find the details that you need to find in order to be able to contact Barry when things arise at the event on the day. And then, of course, room reservations. So over here, those rooms that we've got, you can see, if I just quickly flick back again to the day that we're on, there we go. So we can see, looking at this, these are the different rooms that they are split out into. You can then see all the rooms in here as well, the rooms that have been reserved against this venue and the different sessions that are taking place in these rooms. These reservations will also sit in their own tab over here as well. If I just get back here, there's the rooms. So when you see your list of all your different rooms that you've got and the buildings that they contribute towards, again, these filters in here, the AV support, whiteboard, internet, you can quite easily come in here and apply filters when you're building these out just to see what's what. And then, of course, you can see the room reservation. So at any one time, you'll be able to see any rooms, any buildings, what's taking place from which events in those different places if you need to. But that's the actual event itself. And once you've set all of this up, of course, you can change the images as what render through the portal in here as well if you need to. But you'd typically go onto here. You'd probably then send this out, to a list of all of your people via a nice email, or if you've already given them your URL to your sort of home screen here, a list of all of your up and coming events, then all they'd need to do is go on in here. Because this is anonymous, I can click into these events and register for these. But if it was behind a login, then of course you can see up here, top right, you can change your language, you can click sign in. This is where you can then manage your events coming up, your registration details, wait lists, cancelling events that you might have already signed up to and things like that. But you can see when we go into one of these events here like this, as soon as you click into it, you can see the things that come through. So we've got the sponsors down here with their logos, the people that were sponsoring us, that monetary sponsorship that we had, the different sessions. So we're looking at Monday. On here we can see that there's Dynamics for Sales, and that's taking place in the Churchill room in that building, 9 till 12. We've then got in the afternoon customer service and support again in that room in that building. If we flick to Tuesday, it will tell you the breakout. This is just looking at those sessions that are coming from that calendar that we've added in. If somebody's coming on here and you've got lots of these different breakout sessions over lots of different rooms and lots of different buildings, it's easier to use a session track. So if somebody's interested in solely the Power Platform, they could change this to the Power Platform. It would then show you which sessions apply to what they're looking for in here. So they could see, okay, well actually at 11 o'clock till 1, we've got Power Apps demonstration. And then of course we've got licensing and common data service discussion. Power BI demo in the afternoon, or from 9 till 11. So it just helps them when they flick between this. They might just be interested in Dynamics, so then they want to learn about sales. Okay, fine, it's at 9 till 12. So they can use these tracks to basically just find out of all of the hundreds of sessions you might have in here, where they need to go basically. If you need to then see the speakers that are happening and taking place on those days, again, you just click into here. You could have a little description around what Brad is and what qualifications he might have appear in here as well, which I haven't added. But I can see that Brad is actually hosting the Power BI demo at 9 o'clock. If I look at Wendy, she's actually doing the sales demo that we've got in the morning. So she's actually doing, she's doing that for us. And then, of course, because this was a free pass event, when we look at pass information, there's nothing in here. If I just flick back across to one with passes in it, you can see when we look at this one, this is just another variation. Can you see the pass information? So this event was set up with passes. So we've got a day pass that would cost you £15 and a week pass that costs you £40. The difference being here, once you have pass information set up in here, as soon as you then click register, you would actually then have to pick which pass that you want to purchase at this point, because it now becomes mandatory that you have to pick a pass because you need to take payment for this. Whereas when I look at this one that we've got no pass information against, I click register, you can see it doesn't give me the pass information. It's asking for first name, last name, email address, which it'll always do, and then those 2 custom fields that we've added in appear in here as well. So if I just fill this in, David Davies, that's his email address. Okay, these now becomes mandatory. Gender field, those are the 2 fields I added, custom fields if I say he's a male, and yes, I would like a free goodie bag. That option to say, do you want to register for yourself and somebody else, you obviously get this button. If it said no, then you just wouldn't see this. You'd have to do all of this, refresh your browser, come back in and register again for somebody else. The fact we've turned it on, you could do that. It would just create this person as a registration, and then it would come back in here. If I do that and then just click on checkout, you can see signed attendees, these are the people. It's now processing this. Thank you for your registration. That would now send David an email to say, thank you, we've now received your registration details. If we click across here, I'll just show you again the same person. When you pick a pass, you pick all the details on here, and yes, you would like that. When you click checkout, this would now actually go to, when it processes, whatever you've got set up as your portal payment gateway. It would then pop up with this screen and it would say you now need to submit your details for £15, and then you can take the payment details through there when that decides. There you go. So you can see here card number details, blah blah blah. Obviously you'd fill in all these details, whatever you've got it linked to, PayPal, Sage, whatever, what we mentioned earlier. And then of course you'd click this, that would then take the payment from the details they filled in, and it would push it straight into your thing that you've used for taking payment basically. So that's the 2 differences between taking a pass payment and not, basically. But now David's registered, when we come back in here to this event itself, if I just give this a little refresh, what we can then see against the registration and attendance section here, can you see we've got David Davies in here? He's now registered. We've got 12 in here. When we look at the main screen, you can see this is now incremented by 1. This is now on 12, whereas it was 11 before. He still hasn't currently checked in. So let's just say everybody goes and does that. They fill in all their registration details. If you need to see in the grand scheme of things over here, you've got event registration. This will show you every single person that's registered, regardless of which event it is. Obviously, when you're on the individual event and you click on here, these are only the event registrations that appear for this event itself. When we click into this event in here, just to show you, what it actually does in the background, creates a nice QR code for us. So again, you can see, is it attendees, journalists, you can fill out all these details as well. If you needed to pull this through, you can. But what it would do is it would say, this is now the contact. The contact automatically gets added to your database. He's now a contact in your database. In here, it's telling you that it's linked to this event, the date and time that he registered on the portal, but it generates this QR code. Now, obviously with this, you can then send this as an email. They can then bring it with them on the day. And then you can scan that. So if I just flick across to now show you what this will look like on a mobile phone. There you go. This is me on my mobile. This might be somebody with a tablet, at the front of the event on the stand when the person turns up. So David Davies has just turned up to the event on the day. What do we do with this? So you can see this is me scrolling through the marketing app on a device. We would click on the check-ins option here. There's active check-ins there regardless of which events they are. What we do is we click up here, we click new check-in. From within here, the very first field that we can see at the top is the barcode scanner. So we click on the barcode scanner here, and then it inherits your code from your laptop. Straight away, I don't know if you saw that, but I've got my phone hovering over that QR code. We've scanned the QR code and it's telling us that this is the scan. It now knows automatically that this is the registration code that it's coming from, and it will then fill in the rest of the details for us. So it knows, based on this information that sits behind this, that it's this person that's now turned up, and we've got all the details. It's quick and easy as that. You can then click Save and Close on your app, and you can then see that gets added in here as a check-in. So I'll just get rid of that off my screen. What we then do when we go back into this event now, you can see in here, check-in now equals 1. So when we come back in here against this, you can then see we've got an active check-in, and that's because we scanned that QR code. David Davies is in here. There's the registration he's attending, and of course you can see the check-in against that. When we look at these event registrations as well, when we look at this, you can see there's the check-in details. That's the registration ID. You can still click back into that, so you can see all the details around that, who it was. But what you've now got up here as well, obviously you can see this. If you need to have which sessions that person bought a pass for, because sometimes you can actually have passes for individual breakout sessions. If that was the case, then you'd be able to say, okay, this person's now checked in. He's now eligible to go into these different rooms. You might even have a scanner on each of those rooms and check them into the individual sessions as well if you need to. And then of course over here, if you do that, you then have this concept of session check-ins. So we haven't got just the, oh, I've turned up to the event and I've checked in. You might then say, yeah, that's fine. I've turned up to there. I got a free pass to do that, but I bought individual passes for individual breakout sessions. And that means then once you start checking them into those, you'll be able to see which ones they've attended as well. You'll also be able to see roughly order of magnitude of what they've done, because once they check in here, you'll have the times and dates that you've scanned their locations. So you'll be able to know which one they went to first if they haven't got set times as well. Thanks for listening, guys. I think that's everything. If you need any further information on that, please feel free to get in touch. More than happy to help. Cheers. Bye-bye.